Afremov Studio School. Lesson 1, Level 1. Introduction to Leonid Afremov and his style. Welcome to the lessons of the palette knife style by Afremov Studio. We are a group of artists who have worked and studied together with the palette knife master Leonid Afremov. After the artist passed away in 2019, we have been committed to the mission of keeping his style and legacy alive. In our online curriculum, you will learn all the rules and the secrets of the palette knife style that Leonid Afremov have developed over many years of work. We will start from the basics of the equipment, color theory, and move on towards technical exercises of the oil paint and a palette knife. After the initial practice exercises are completed, you will start working on your first paintings. You will make a lot of practice paintings and will be moving step by step into making original art using the style of Leonid Afremov. We will start our introduction with a short bio of Leonid Afremov and the development of his style. We will tell you why Leonid Afremov chose the palette knife as his main instrument and why he avoided using brushes. Leonid Afremov was born on July 12, 1955 in the town of Vitebsk, USSR, currently the Republic of Belarus, to a Jewish family. Since early age he has shown interest in drawing and arts. He took art lessons during his childhood and adolescence. He was always very artistic and creative. After finishing high school, he graduated from the Vitebsk Art Institute, which was founded by the artist Mark Chagall. Chagall was also originally from Vitebsk and served as very important inspiration to Leonid Afremov. In 1976, Leonid Afremov got married. He began his professional career the following year. At first he was working designing and making decorations and sets for the local theater. He also worked in a wine factory designing labels. Later, he became a freelancer making various decorations for schools and communal farms. He was making fine art paintings only during his free time and sold very little art during this period. In 1990, due to numerous reasons, the Afremov family has relocated to Israel. The family has struggled as new-coming immigrants. Leonid had to pick up different jobs while he was painting. In Israel, for the first time, Leonid has tried to sell his work to galleries or collectors. He started experimenting with different styles and techniques to see what sells better. He tried watercolors, mixed media, watercolor with Sharpie, pencil drawings, oil paintings with a brush, acrylic paintings with brush. He even tried sculpting and galvanica. He said that watercolor or drawings on paper were too delicate and fragile. Oil on canvas was durable and became his preferred method. At first he was making realistic or impressionistic paintings with a brush and oil. In order to maintain the colors clean, he had a brush per each color with its own separate waterman for cleaning and separate brushes and cans for mixing of colors. It was hard to maintain the colors 100% clean due to the residue that is left on the brush from the cleaning in a can full of water. Many times the colors were becoming dirty. Leonid started looking for solutions to make the colors clean and avoid all the mess of dozens of brushes and their respective water cans. He found the palette knife. It's a flat metallic instrument that you can simply wipe off completely clean with a piece of tissue. In 1997 he started his first experimentation with the palette knife. His first works were mixed media of palette knife and brush. He would still use a brush to paint fine details in the artwork. He did not know yet how to make such details with a palette knife, but eventually he moved more towards larger canvases where details can be made with a palette knife. In the year 2000 he was making the first impressionistic paintings using only a palette knife. That same year he accessed the internet for the first time. Out of curiosity, he was looking at paintings in US art galleries and found his own artwork listed for thousands of dollars in New York City. He was paid only $300 for the same very painting he saw. Israel was a very small market, and he was very limited in his prices and capacity to sell his art. These two factors have pushed Leonid Afremov and his family to relocate to the USA. In the USA, Leonid's sons have begun helping him sell his work, so he had a lot of time to paint and develop the palette knife style. The inspiration of sunny Florida motivated Leonid to paint bright and colorful paintings using only a palette knife. The palette knife allowed him to have separate shades of different colors without interfering with each other and staining one another. This characteristic allowed Leonid to mix colors directly on the canvas instead of a palette board. The nature of the style had its own challenges. The knife only moved smoothly when the paint was wet. Drying paint made the palette knife stuck or create bumps. This obligated Leonid to finish what he started within 8 to 10 hours period, while oil paint is still wet and creamy. Smaller paintings Leonid has learned to finish in one day or a few hours. Larger painting required to be painted in section. Leonid would finish, for example, 1/4 of the painting in one day, the next day another part, and so on, finishing in 4 days. These characteristics of the paint and the instrument made Leonid plan his paintings well. Before moving to the oil paints, Leonid would make a detailed pencil drawing as an outline of the composition and objects. This helped Leonid to finish a painting in more than one day without any issues. He always had a pencil drawing on the canvas before working with oil paint. Many times Leonid would use a projector in a dark room to project pictures of objects and outline them on the canvas. By 2006, Leonid had the style developed and mastered. He understood that he had created something unique and wanted to share it with the world. At first he was giving lessons, but teaching was taking away a lot of the time that he could make artworks to sell. So he took apprentices that would work for him and learn at the same time. The apprentices were assisting him in stretching canvases, preparing them for work, making pencil drawings for composition, and assisting in making the first outline layer with a palette knife. Little by little they were learning how to work with a palette knife with hands-on experience. Some apprentices were starting with adding texture to canvas prints to get familiar with the paintings. In 2009, the apprentices left Leonid and moved on with their career. Leonid did not take new apprentices until 2010 when he moved to Mexico. Leonid was visiting the resort city of Playa del Carmen for many years. In 2010 he had an opportunity to move there. While living in Mexico, the demand for his art have increased significantly. The customers that could not afford originals were buying prints, but Leonid felt it was unfair to them. He wanted everyone to have handmade art in their house. So he came up with the idea of recreating his own work, but for less money than the original masterpiece. He developed a step-by-step algorithm for copying his own work. This allowed him to make the recreation a lot faster than the original artwork. The demand for handmade recreations was so high for Leonid to be able to cover all the orders. In March 2010, he started hiring professional local artists and teaching them how to work in his style. Specifically, copying his work and using the method he has developed. By 2012 he already had over 10 artists working with him, and he began referring to his organization as Afremov Studio. The artists were very loyal and worked with him till his last day. Over the years they learned how to make copies of most of his work using the same technique and the same oil paints as he used. Leonid preferred handmade recreations over Glycol prints because the prints did not have texture, and if you added texture onto of the print by hand, it was not the same feel and look as an actual painted copy, with the same details and texture as the original masterpiece. Leonid Afremov passed away from cardiac arrest at the age of 64 on August 19, 2019. His family took charge of Afremov's studio. The artists wished to keep working and making copies of Leonid's art so people could have affordable handmade recreation in their home instead of the flat print. The artists showed their commitment to Leonid's work and the movement he started. Since 2019 they trained new artists to join the studio using the same method that Leonid have developed to copy his work and teach. Now Afremov's studio wished to share all their knowledge and this magnificent style with you. They will use the wisdom Leonid had provided so you can learn to paint just like them and maybe develop this style into something of your own. The journey will not be easy and will require a lot of practice, trial and error, patience and dedication. All Afremov studio artists spend dozens of hours practicing and wasting canvases to get where they are now. You will need to follow the same path of training in order to master this slick instrument. In our next lesson we will cover the working space, its organization, the instruments, and equipment you need to have, how to set up the equipment and explanation on why we use this specific equipment. We will also cover preparatory steps before beginning to work. Your assignment for lesson 1 is to browse different paintings on afremov.com and select your favorite one and write a short essay on why you selected this painting and what makes it special for you. See you in lesson 2.